Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. As COVID-19 cases increase, thousands flock to the Smart Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City to receive their anti-COVID jabs. JC Cosico with the report.
That's not a line for a basketball game. It's for booster shot inoculations at the Smart Araneta Coliseum mega vaccination site in Quezon City on Saturday. Thousands trooped to the vaccination center, but others had to wait for hours just to receive their booster shots. Among them is Merlin Facun, who had waited for an hour before being ushered inside the Coliseum.
Okay lang po para mabusteran para po ligtas sa COVID.
Jane Montero, on the other hand, spent at least 4 hours just to get vaccinated. It's been 6 months since she received her second Pfizer shot.
Hindi naman siya mandatory pero kailangan para for your safety, for everyone's safety, safety din ng mga tao sa bahay.
But senior citizens like Leonardo Gamboa were immediately accommodated.
Pang protection.
Saan po?
Natin maaaring karoon ng sakit o lalo na ngayong pandemic. Maraming mga kung ano mga sakit ang lumalabas ang mga variant. Kaya naisipan namin na magpaturok na ng bakuna, Pfizer.
The QCLGU for its part had this to say.
Yung pong may mga confirmed booking, definitely meron silang bakuna. Kung sakali man magkaroon sila ng medyo mahabang waiting time, we apologize. But sana po maintindihan din nila na meron din tayong human limitations and operational glitches na paminsan na nato-troubleshoot naman kaagad-agad. So we just ask for their patience and understanding.
Around 10,500 individuals are expected to receive Pfizer and Sinovac booster shots at the Big Dome. The local government assures they have enough supply of vaccines. Majority of the vaccinees have scheduled. Walk-ins are welcome, but it will depend if there are no shows or if there are deferred vaccinations due to health screening failure. Senior citizens and persons with disabilities are also prioritized for walk-in vaccinations regardless of residence.
Seniors PWD, yan. Pwede po naming i-accommodate agad-agad as walk-in. Pero yung pong mga non-seniors at non-PWD, yun po ay kailangang magpalista at bumalik at a later time.
Those who were not able to receive shots were told to visit other inoculation sites of the city. Quezon City has administered over 4.6 million COVID-19 shots, including booster doses, while over 2.1 million adults and minors are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto has tested positive for COVID-19. Mayor Vico said he is experiencing sore throat, fever, and body aches, but he will continue to work remotely while under quarantine for 7 days. The Pasig mayor is appealing to the public to be careful and responsible if showing symptoms. Last year, Soto was under quarantine after being exposed to his driver who died of COVID-19. He tested negative then. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The Education Department clarifies that face-to-face classes are only suspended in alert level 3 areas. In an interview with the Chiefs, DepEd Undersecretary Wilfredo Cabral said that schools in areas under alert levels 1 and 2 can continue to hold physical classes. This as more areas are lifted to more strict restrictions under alert level 3.
And it's good that if we can continue the expanded phase in those areas, then we can have a benchmark on how we can really adapt the limited face-to-face component in the blended learning.
Now, despite the continuous increase in COVID-19 cases, MMDA says curfew in Metro Manila is no longer necessary at this point of the pandemic. In yesterday's Laging Handa briefing, MMDA Chairman Benhar Abalos said that the public has already learned not to go out of their homes after experiencing numerous COVID-19 surges. Abalos noted that as early as 5 p.m., malls and major roads are almost empty. With this, the MMDA chairman said escalating Metro Manila to COVID-19 alert level 4 is no longer necessary as well.
Siguro on our own as a people, natuto na tayo when to self-regulate, na hindi mo na kailangan pagsabihang huwag kang lumabas. On their own, ang kababayan natin talagang hindi na lumalabas dahil alam nilang nakakahawa nga ito.
Now, while the world grapples with the wild uptick in coronavirus cases due to the Omicron variant, one expert says there may be more variants to come. John Hopkins Andrew Pikosh tells us what to expect as we deal with the Omicron surge. Let's watch this.
We can say with pretty good certainty that there will be more variants coming down the pipeline, but we really think that, Omicron was a tremendous challenge to the current vaccines and the treatment regimens. And if we can handle Omicron, which in many ways when it comes to hospitalizations and the rates of hospitalizations we probably are going to be in a good place to be able to deal with other surges and be able to limit them in the future.
Where did Delta go?
Delta is still around a little bit. We have a few people here in the hospital that are infected with Delta. Delta is at very low levels across the country, maybe 10% of sequences. But Omicron has really come in and outpaced Delta and really become the dominant virus in an incredibly fast period of time.
Andy, we're talking about economic momentum in the face of the Omicron upswing, and we've been talking about when we can expect it to be over. I'm curious about what you've observed about a 5-day isolation period as the CDC guidance lays out, as well as now the United Kingdom. Is that proven to be the effective amount of time that people are contagious, after which they can go back into circulation?
The problem is it's a very nuanced question. There is some data suggesting that if you've been vaccinated, that after 5 days you are very unlikely to be infectious. But all of that data was generated with variants other than Omicron. And we already know from some of the testing procedures, some of the transmission of Omicron, that it's doing things a little bit differently than previous variants. So many scientists, including myself, really wanted to hear that 5-day incubation period ended with a negative antigen test, because that would have really been strong evidence that you would be very unlikely to spread the virus if you went back to the workplace.
Andy,
so,
go ahead.
With other variants, I would have said fine, but with Omicron, things are a little different.
Andy, Tom started the conversation off saying what comes after Omicron, and we're talking about bank earnings. We're talking about the return to work plans that were put on hold as we deal with this latest variant. What will return to work, return to party, return to restaurant look like once we are back to an endemic phase of this virus rather than pandemic?
Well, if there's any bit of a silver lining right now, it's becoming clear that if you've been vaccinated and you get an Omicron infection, your immune response afterwards is not only tremendously high, but it's also very broad, meaning that it recognizes all these previous variants that have come through. So there's suggestive data right now indicating that people who have gotten through this Omicron surge may end up with a really strong immune response afterwards that's going to provide even more protection against whatever the next variant is. And if that's true, that could be a real turning point in terms of dealing with this as a pandemic versus something seasonal like influenza.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 10:15 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now, www.signalplay.com, and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.